Hello and welcome back. In part 2, we'll take a look at writing style and approach. Now that you've seen what's in a research paper, we'll focus on how to say what you want to say and what is meant by inference. Recall that your results set up the discussion and that you will want to be concise, clear, and correct in telling your story. But sometimes there's just more than one way to say what you want to say. And how do you decide which data to use? What do you do if your key message is a complete mess? When you get stuck, consider your study's inference. Inference is defined as the process of drawing conclusions based on evidence. Inference can help you decide which message is your true path and which ideas might be side roads or even lesson paragraphs in the discussion. Let's look at an example. All right, so this page describes two hypothetical studies. Study 1 uses a greenhouse, and they looked at 3 plant species and plant nutrition. They measured things such as soil moisture, temperature, radiation, and carbon dioxide. Study 2 tested the same ideas, but went to regional field sites and collected data there, so there were fewer controlled variables. Now the idea here is that the inference of these studies is different. Study 1 might discuss plant nutrition in terms of the mechanisms of plant growth, for example, whereas Study 2 could discuss plant growth and the role of environment. So in other words, how you set up your study will determine where you can go with your message. The heart of the discussion is, do your data support your study hypothesis? If your data do support what you expected, tell the reader this directly. If not, say so and give your reasoning. Provide examples from other papers, but again, stay on topic with your key message. Sounds simple? Yeah, well, at some point you probably find that writing the discussion isn't so straightforward. And this is because you will be very close to your data and you'll have learned all of these amazing things during the journey of your work. You'll probably even have some pet ideas that you'll want to stick in there someplace. These are tricksters, and I'm telling you now, they will clog up your message. To write clearly, be strong and recognize those topics. Ask others to help you weed out which ideas you need to keep and which ones are just marginally helpful. Do keep track of those other bits and pieces, though, because you might use them in future drafts. As you're writing, pay attention to the format, because even good writing presented poorly can confuse your reader. You'll want to write quality topic sentences. One tip is to pause and ask yourself, well, what am I trying to say here? And then use that for the topic sentence. Another important part of writing well is to use your voice. Write from your notes, not from the text of others. Use note cards or an outline to order your ideas, and then go back to those papers for the details, but don't use their phrasing. This can be difficult if English isn't your first language. So I recommend bouncing your ideas off of someone who is fluent, and then ask them to read your paper. Be aware that submission software will check your draft for possible plagiarism. Now, in all of this, don't be afraid to use your own words, because it's your paper. You are the expert and you are sharing your insight. Finally, it's time to write that abstract. The abstract is not supposed to be a collection of sentences pulled from somewhere else in the paper. Instead, use it as a chance to give a high-level summary of your findings. Tell your story, give the details, but keep it simple and keep it direct. If the journal asks for core ideas, these are short active statements like, Factor X doubled the yield of B. Then check your references for completeness, accuracy, and format. A sloppy reference list does not give the best impression. The acknowledgement section could be needed at submission and maybe not. So take some notes and save them in another document that you can find later. You can look at how other papers have done this for some examples. All right, woohoo, you have a draft. But before you submit, do these 5 things. First, make sure all authors approve the paper. Second, get a knowledgeable person to read it. Knowledgeable in the sense that they understand scientific writing, but they're not tied directly to your project. Find someone who can read your paper from a perspective that is both unattached and unbiased to your results. Third, think about your message. Try to write your message down in 3 to 5 sentences and put them somewhere, because you'll use them in your cover letter, which we'll talk about in part 3. Fourth, while your helper person is reading your paper, make a list of potential reviewers. And finally, take some time away from it. Just don't step away so long that you lose momentum. Reward yourself, and then come back to get started on article submission.